All right, this is video 2 for our weekend wrap-up of European notes. We're moving on to now, again, still in the category of benefits and costs of science and technology, but now military technologies. So this is kind of a generalization of the 20th century. As in other fields, science and technology changed the nature of warfare in the 20th century. European countries strove to develop weapons and surveillance technologies that would give them an advantage over their rivals. However, these new technologies resulted in devastation and dangers for not only the continent of Europe, but also for the world. So look at industrialized warfare. Modern military technologies made World War I different from all previous wars. Factories of each combatant nation produced sophisticated weapons such as machine guns and ammunition in mass quantities. Railroads transported these war materials and troops rapidly. As the war dragged on, the new deadly technologies were developed, including poison gas, tanks, and the first use of military aircraft. These technologies were developed further during World War II, when aircraft supplemented railroads for transporting supplies and troops. And aerial bombardment devastated cities throughout Europe and Asia. So that's kind of early century. Then, of course, you get to World War II. It's very similar, but then you get to nuclear weapons. So development of nuclear weapons. Development of the atomic bomb took military technology to a new level. As scientists learned more about the secrets of the atom, they were developing the knowledge necessary for the production of nuclear weapons and power. Once they understood how to split the atom into its component parts, they learned to release energy that resulted in a variety of ways. Atomic weapons, first used by the United States against Japan in World War II, had a destructive potential far beyond other types of weapons. And of course, there's a lot of morality there as well about should you use them in warfare at all, and how successful is that, and so forth. So then you get the benefit of nuclear power, which is electricity and obviously power for your country and so forth. So electricity from nuclear power. Although the first use of nuclear energy was destructive, its use to provide power generation had great potential to meet a growing demand for electricity. Nuclear power plants were first developed in Europe in the late 1950s. In 2015, about 27% of electricity in the European Union came from nuclear power. However, nuclear power comes with risks, including the release of radioactive material from waste disposal and accidents in nuclear power plants. In 1986, the disaster at Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Ukraine released more radioactivity into the atmosphere than the bombs at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Contamination of soil and water had long-lasting effects on people and livestock. And obviously, still to this day, people don't live in that area because of the radiation that leaked out in general. And you can kind of, I don't know how well you can see the pictures here, but I have some pictures of kind of the aftermath of the factory there. But those buildings are still just there, abandoned in general. Okay, genocide. The extermination of millions of people, including 6 million Jews in the Holocaust and the Nazi death camps, showed the ultimate industrialization of death and the use of military technology to commit genocide. German technical experts set up the camps like efficient factories that destroyed rather than created, as people were moved to them and through them in a brutal and impersonal way. Railroads, deadly gas chambers, and huge crematoria all played a role in the carnage. Nuclear weapons concerns. The devastation of Hiroshima and Nagasaki showed the destructive power of nuclear weapons technology. The Soviet Union developed its first atomic bomb in 1949. Soon, the United States and the Soviet Union became involved in a nuclear arms race, as each sought to move ahead of its rival in the growth of nuclear arsenal. The arms race became even more deadly with the development of a new category of weapons. In the bombs used at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the energy came from nuclear fission, the splitting of the atomic nuclei. In the new bombs, the energy came from fusion, the combining of atomic nuclei. These new bombs were known as hydrogen or thermonuclear bombs. This comes out in the early 50s. In November 1952, the United States detonated the first hydrogen bomb. In August 1953, the Soviets responded with the successful test of their hydrogen bomb. The two superpowers recognized the tremendous danger posed by nuclear war. They came to believe that the best way to prevent a war was to protect the ability of a country to retaliate. They reasoned that a country would not use nuclear weapons first if it understood that its opponent could launch a nuclear attack in response. The desire to prevent war led to several arms control agreements. The first major one came in 1963. The Soviet Union and the United States agreed to ban atmospheric testing of nuclear weapons. That was the limited test ban treaty we talked about the other day. But the whole idea is you build up so many nuclear weapons, and if you have an equal amount, essentially you never want to attack each other because you know that it will result in the death of the entire world. And having all those nuclear bombs and make sure that that doesn't happen. But you don't want to get left behind, so you keep building up more and more. But kind of ironically, it keeps a lot of the big countries at bay as a result. During the Cold War, nuclear proliferation, or the spread of nuclear weapons, became a growing concern. So in 1968, the United States, the Soviet Union, France, the UK, and China signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty to try to limit the spread of nuclear weapons to other countries. The treaty did not limit peaceful uses of nuclear technology, so you could still make factories and nuclear power plants and those kind of things. Despite this treaty, several countries later acquired nuclear weapons. Among these were India, Pakistan, and North Korea. This is one of the biggest concerns America and Europe has right now, that a lot of the early deals that try to limit nuclear power or nuclear weapons go back to like the 60s and 70s, but you have all these other countries that are also very dangerous or unstable, like a North Korea or Iran or Pakistan, and we worry that, and they're not under the same agreements or deals that we are. So there is kind of a worldwide push to hopefully maybe one day get all of us under the same page, kind of like we did back in the 60s and 70s with like the Western world, but now more so with everybody who has nuclear power, which is why we put so much pressure on people like North Korea and Iran and Pakistan and so forth. Okay, moving on to modern changes to religion. So this is the point where I don't have pictures anymore. I just got the blank screen just to go through. So sorry, I wasn't going to spend time doing all the pictures because we're just running through this. But this kind of reminds me of Infinity War with the Avengers. I'm actually probably going to see Avengers Endgame tonight. So for more bonus, the first 10 people who send me an email to ryan.southall@zacharyschools.org, in the titles place, just put your favorite Avenger, and you'll get some bonus points. The first 10 to do that.
Batman.
That's DC.
That's my favorite Avengers movie.
That's terrible. Anyway, there's not a movie. I mean, there's the 1989 version of Michael Keaton.
No, the new one, The Knight.
That's Dark Knight. Okay. Anyway, modern challenges to religion. As European society modernized in the 19th century, the role of organized religion in people's lives declined. As more people moved into urban environments, they became detached from the village churches that had been central to their lives. In addition, many European rulers in the late 19th century sought to curb the power of churches. Europe continued to become more secular as science and reason grew in importance. Some biblical scholars used new scientific and historical information to challenge the literal truth of the Bible. While some churches looked for ways to incorporate new ideas, others sought to maintain traditional beliefs. In the 20th century, as new ideas in science and philosophy questioned the belief in a rational, orderly universe, religious renewal provided an alternative viewpoint. So we're looking at Christian responses to totalitarianism. Totalitarian governments in Central and Eastern Europe sought to replace Christianity with the ideologies of fascism and communism. These governments found different ways of dealing with the churches, and churches responded in a variety of ways. So first, we look at fascism and the church. When Mussolini came to power in Italy in 1926, he established a totalitarian government. However, he found he needed to work with the existing institutions, including the Catholic Church. In 1929, the fascist state recognized the independence of Vatican City and declared the Catholic Church as the only official religion in Italy. The Catholic Church also received grants of money. In exchange, the Pope recognized Mussolini's government and encouraged Italians to support it. Germany. As Hitler rose to power, some Protestant German clergy spoke out against him. Dietrich Bonhoeffer and Martin Niemöller first objected to the state's interference in matters of religious organization. Then they began to take strong stands against the state's anti-Christian and anti-Semitic views as well. Both were sent to concentration camps for their opposition. Bonhoeffer was executed and Niemöller would only narrowly escape execution. Then you get to the Soviet Union. Communism was an atheistic ideology that opposed all religion. Marx is often quoted as writing, "Religion is the opiate of the people, of the masses." Lenin and Stalin systematically attacked the Russian Orthodox Church. So going back through all the Tsar time, the Russian Orthodox Church was the main church of Russia for a very long time. That's actually how they kind of got the title of Tsar, because they adopted Orthodox religion from the Eastern Roman Empire or Byzantine Empire, and because the emperor was involved in the church there and protector of the church there, that's one of the reasons why they ended up adopting the title of Tsar, which is a shortened version of Caesar. That was the largest religion in the Soviet Union. So they decided to close churches and send in clergy to labor camps or kill them. So essentially, Stalin and the creation of the Soviet Union wanted to make sure they had like a cult of personality developed, and one that only worshipped the country and communism and basically Stalin himself. They didn't want anything to challenge those ideas, so they rejected religion in general. However, during World War II, Stalin reopened thousands of churches to appeal to people's patriotism in the fight against the Nazis. Khrushchev renewed attacks on the church, and thousands of churches were closed. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, Russians were again able to worship. The Russian Orthodox Church thrived despite the decades of opposition to it by the communist government. Then you look at Poland. During Stalin's era, the Roman Catholic Church in Poland was persecuted just as Russian Orthodox Church had been as well. After 1956, however, Poland's communist government and the Catholic Church reached a compromise. The government agreed to allow the church to conduct its religious mission as long as it stayed out of politics. Although the church was still strongly anti-communist, it accepted these terms. When dissidents began to speak up against the communist government in the 1970s, the church was in a difficult position. However, more clergy began to sympathize with dissidents and workers. In 1978, a Polish cardinal became Pope John Paul II. The following year, the Pope made an 8-day visit to Poland and drew a huge enthusiastic crowd. The Pope was a strong supporter of social justice and peace, and the Catholic Church in Poland became support of solidarity, which we talked about solidarity on Friday in class when it emerged in 1980. The support of the Catholic Church was an important factor in solidarity's ultimate success and downfall of the communist government in 1989. Okay, so we got a little bit more to cover, and then we'll be done, and we'll do the other videos in the morning, and I'll get them to you Saturday morning at some point. Okay, reform in the Catholic Church. The meeting of the Second Vatican Council, the first such meeting of the Roman Catholic Church since 1870, was the major instrument of Catholic reform in the 20th century. Pope John the 23rd called the council, which began in 1962, and was continued under Pope Paul VI until 1965. One of the main goals of the council was to make the church more responsive to the concerns of the modern world. To that end, the council redefined some of the church's doctrine and practices. For example, the church allowed the celebration of the Mass in vernacular languages rather than Latin, and encouraged greater participation by lay people in the liturgy and in the church. The church also emphasized the Bible as the foundation of its teachings and encouraged Catholics to read the Bible rather than relying on clergy to interpret it for them. In addition, bishops were given a more active role in advising the Pope. The council also began to redefine the church's relations with other religious communities. Many non-Catholic observers attended the council. The Pope affirmed the close relationship between Christianity and Judaism and condemned anti-Semitism. Catholics were allowed to attend services and pray with other Christian denominations and were encouraged to be friendly with non-Christian faith communities. In 1965, the Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox churches, divided since the 11th century and the big East-West schism, issued a proclamation expressing a desire for some reconciliation between them. Will they ever get back together? The answer to that question is more than likely no, but still working a lot better than they used to. Okay, so we're going to stop there. I'm going to do some more videos in the morning because I don't think anybody's going to watch more than 2 tonight if they watch any on Friday evening, so you'll get the rest tomorrow on Saturday. Have a good day or have a good weekend.